Hello and welcome to Wealth and Wisdom with the Market Guys. I'm James DeGiorgia.
And I'm Jeff Garbaz. On today's show, we're going to discuss exploring a new way to treat cancer with chemotherapy that can potentially minimize side effects. Joining us here today is Dr. Theodore Zucconi, Director and President of the company since 2007, and was formerly President of Implementation Edge, a management consulting firm that specializes in performance improvement for high technology organizations.
We also have Dr. David Plant, Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of the Board of Directors. He is a co-founder of the company and a co-developer of our core technology. From 1995 to 2000, Dr. Plant was Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of the Board of Directors of Safe Science, Inc., a company founded. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
I guess we go right to the point. A paradigm shift in the way that we treat cancer. You are using carbohydrates. I'd never heard of this, and I was taken back at that something like that could be used.
You're not the only one. Most of the medicine and drug design these days is based on a protein model back from the DNA, RNA discoveries. What we found was, or Dr. Platt found, I'm relatively new, and the co-designer of the drugs, Anatol Klyasov, our chief scientist, was that there are receptors in the body that are predominantly on cancer cells, many cancer cells, so it's uniform, it's not just a type of cancer. But a carbohydrate is like a lock and a key, so a carbohydrate can target in on that specific receptor and then interfere with or deliver another drug. There are many mechanisms that we can use, but it goes right to the tumor, ignores the healthy cells, therefore drops the side effects to the healthy cells and increases the efficacy of the medicine in the tumor itself.
And you've had some success. You have a colon study already underway with a human study.
Yes, it's a third, actually, fourth, I should say.
Tell us about the ones that you've done then. We'll start from the top.
Pleasure. The FDA usually wants you to start with patients who are very sick, so there's very little risk if you do have some toxicity. So we did a phase 1 study for all solid tumors. That went so well, we stopped it. The FDA let us go to a phase 2 for all solid tumors. That went so well that they then let us switch to a phase 2, skipping phase 1 for new patients, and also changed the regimen to the present standard of care. So what we did is we don't get rid of the chemotherapy. We just give them what they're going to get anyway, and then add our Davenant compound to it, or lead carbohydrate compound, which then targets the medicine to the cell, to the disease cell, delivers the chemotherapy, and then destroys the cell and ignores the healthy cells on the way.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. Dr. Plant, how did you start this business? What was the evolution to enter this field? It's a daunting task to try and find a treatment, much less a way of really helping people with these terrible things, cancer, whether it's colon or otherwise.
Yeah, for many years, scientists know that there are specific receptors, protein receptors, recognize only carbohydrates, and they call them lectins. But in drug design, scientists simply did not choose this opportunity and utilize that recognition to deliver or target therapy for drugs. So you can take chemotherapy, attach it to a polymer or a saccharide or a sugar molecule, which will be recognized by those specific receptors on cancer cells. And those receptors actually take that payload into the cancer cell.
You know, I had a physician once explain to me that, finding solutions for treatments of cancer is like thinking of different electrical plugs. 3 prongs, 5 prongs, 6 prongs, all the different combinations around the world, and thinking about getting it into the right receptacle, right, so that the electricity can flow, so that the treatment can flow. Would you say that's a fair representation of what you're trying to do with the receptors?
Correct. The more you are precise in your targeting, you will avoid healthy cells.
So with Pro Pharmaceuticals, you started this 7 years ago or 8 years ago?
7.5 years.
And you've been public for?
7 years.
7 years. And you've invested $45 million so far, which really seems like a small little drop, of investment to get to the point where you've had, how many you said, 4?
Fourth trial.
Four trials. It's an amazing use of capital, and to get that far and to get those approvals.
It's a credit to the FDA.
Right.
We did 56 submissions, and the FDA is very cooperative with us. We are very happy.
And what is the next stage? What are the next things that you have to do, or you have ahead of you?
Oh, the plate is so full it's hard to even focus. But we have to finish the trial for the phase 2. We'll probably go to a phase 3, but we have multiple paths to approval.
And the phase 2 trial that you're doing now is for which particular type of cancer?
Colorectal cancer.
Colorectal,
Right.
okay.
There's another way to get an approval. There are two others. One is called the salvage therapy. Our data was so good in the phase 2 trial for end-stage patients. People who had about 12 weeks to live, we extended their lives a median of 6.7 months. Some people lived over 2 years.
It's remarkable, remarkable.
Yeah. And the real remarkability about it is they didn't have any side effects. So while we're extending their lives, it's not like they're laying in a hospital bed on opium.
Oh my gosh.
They're actually home with their families because the side effects are reduced so dramatically. Right. So where you can go for the salvage therapy, there's another type of approval called the excipient, where the FDA has called us a functional novel excipient, where we add our drug to a already approved chemo drug as an additive to it, an adjuvant as it's called, and we can get an approval on that so that anywhere they use this chemotherapy, they can also add ours to it. And then the third way is to go, that claims safety.
Okay.
If we want to claim superiority, then we do have to do a phase 3. But it'll be very small because the more patients you need, or the reason you need more patients, is because your difference between what's there now and your drug is so small, you have to have a lot of patients to prove statistically that there's a difference. When the difference is so huge in safety and efficacy, you need fewer patients. So our statistician just told us this week, for a phase 3 approval for colorectal cancer, line 1 patients will need less than 100 people in the entire trial.
And what's the size of the full colorectal market? It's a pretty big market.
It's big. There are 150,000 new patients a year, and they get treated for 2 years. So in essence, in a year, there are 300,000 patients being treated.
And that number is growing as we go through time, as the baby boomers mature, correct?
Yeah, me, you're talking about?
We should point
all
out
of
that these are the numbers for the United States.
Yes.
To find a new delivery system, a way of introducing chemotherapy, you know, the world market has to be exponentially larger. For all the people who have colorectal cancer that don't get diagnosed and actually suffer from it and die from it, it has to be in the millions.
Well, Europe is about the same as us. In South America, it's interesting. The numbers are about the same, but because of genetics, they actually get the disease at an earlier age. So it's much more devastating to a person in a family when you get this at 30 or 40 years old, as opposed to typically in the United States, it's 50, 60, 70 years old. So in that area, it's a much more devastating disease because of the age of the people. So there's a much more, we think, hopefully, much more acceptance of our drug pretty quickly.
And how about the Asian markets? Is colorectal as big a deal in those markets?
It
not quite?
varies by country because of their diet and genetics, but it's pretty much the same. The incidence per 100,000 population is about the same.